Welcome to the step-by-step guide to substantiating billings in Sage Intacct Construction. In this live stream, I am going to be going over, after an invoice has been generated, a report that can be built to back up that invoice to show what those costs were that you are billing for, if you need to send those to a client or you need something internally to tie out to. Okay, so first let's navigate here to my general contractor entity. And I'm going to go to the invoice that was generated. And we're going to be working with invoice 36 here. Just look at this quick. And we're going to scroll down to the bottom and you're going to see when I generate time and material invoice, it gives me the entries that it used to create that time and material invoice. Okay, so here's a bunch of labor entries with a quantity and the extended price. Okay, so if you see down here, there's page 1 of 5. So you can see there's more transactions on the different screens here. So I've got some subcontracts as well. Okay, so I'm going to show you a simple report that you can build that will list out the detail of the subcontractors, the AP bills, and then one for labor as well. Okay, so I'm going to navigate here to the report center. Go to my report called Substantiated Billings. And if you're familiar with Custom Report Writer, it's a wizard. You hit the next button, it tells you what each step, what you need to do, okay? So on step 1 here, you want to build an order entry transaction detail. So what this is after you create and bill your invoice, it technically is an order entry invoice, even though it's listed here in projects, okay? So technically, behind the scenes is an order entry invoice. So basically, you need to pick that table. You need to select all of these items here if this box is empty. So you're going to hit add and add those all. Okay, then you're going to hit next step here. And here is where I want to pick my different columns. Okay, so in order entry transaction detail, the very top table here, I've got some boxes checked. So I've got cost type ID, my extended price, my cost code ID. And if you scroll down here, if you come back into report, how this wizard works on this specific step is it expands the sections where you have selected some sort of a checkbox, okay? So underneath this vendor table, there's a subtable, contact, and it has a box checked. So that is why this section is expanded, okay? So if you just keep scrolling down, you can see that the boxes that I've checked here, okay? Another easy way to decipher what you have checked, because there are a lot of fields here that you can select from, is to look on the select column sequence screen, okay? So we're gonna go there here in a second. So I'm gonna go to the next step just to show you this report wizard a little bit. So adding calculated columns would be if I want to add up a couple columns, subtract, divide, etc. So you could do that here. We're not going to do that with this report though. Over here, here's what the 4 fields I have picked on my previous screen with all the checkboxes, okay? I can drag them around and move them in the order I want to, okay? So just, you can rename the column as well if you don't like it to be called cost type ID, for example, okay? Here's where I want to tell it, I want to subtotal something. So I want to subtotal the price, the extended price. So I've check marked that in the sum column there. Okay. How do I want this report to sort? I want it to go by cost code ID and then by something and something. So you can do different sorts and you can drag and drop these around as well. Okay. So I'm going to keep going through to the next screen. And I want my my cost types for this example, I just wanted to show you smaller report. So I just cost type ID equal to sub. So if you have subcontractors, material, cost types, equipment, you could do something different here with the filters as well to capture all those AP bills, for example, or purchasing, if you're using the purchasing or purchase order area or commitments. Okay. And now I have a grouping that I want to do where I want to group all of my transactions by cost code. So it'll give me a subtotal for those cost codes. I want to order my groups, and I want to show the details here. Can hit next to that step. Okay, I want an additional prompt. I want it to prompt me. I want to be able to select the project ID. Okay, for example. So right here, I can pick project ID. This isn't something where I might necessarily want it to do it when the report is run, where it's required, but you can select that there and fill it in or not fill it in if you'd like, okay? Just gonna hit next again. I'm fine with how that's organized. So that was the build for custom report to substantiate the billings. I'm going to run the report and show you what it looks like. It's going to come here and hit run. The invoice I'm looking at is 831 that I invoiced the customer. All of my costs might be dated all sorts of different dates. But the way that this report works is this will drive off of the actual project invoice date. So that's the date I've dated it to that specific customer. Okay, and I'm playing with this project here, and now I'm going to look at it. Okay, so now for the project that I was looking at earlier that had the 5 pages of entries on it, these are the subcontract costs on that specific invoice. Okay, so we're going to navigate back over to that invoice to show you what I am referring to here. So if you see, there's the 6,000, there's a 2,400, a 4,800. Okay, so if I click here and I look at show details on the $6,000, my vendor was Frameworks. So if I come back over here, I can see the $6,000 Frameworks entry. Okay, if I keep going down the line here, you can see I've got a $2,400 one, $4,800. I've got all these subcontract bills listed here that will total up to, this report will total those up and give you the vendor as well, the cost code. You can add more columns if you like, if you want the cost code description and such with that report with the checkboxes. But here's just a simple way to substantiate those subcontractor bills, for example, on that specific invoice. Okay, so now let's look at the labor one. So let me go back here. You can see all these labor entries. So that's the majority of this invoice to this customer. There's multiple pages of this. Okay, so let's go here and let's look at a report for the labor. Okay, so again, we're going to play with the order entry transaction detail table, and I want to select all my items here. Okay, so we've got a similar build, but a little bit different. So I've got my price, extended price, want that price, I want my quantity, my hours. Okay, so this would be my hourly rate and my hours to get me my price. Okay, if I scroll down a little bit more, I've got timesheet table, entry table I'm playing with now, where I want to show a description. I want to show the entry date as well. Scroll down some more, and I want the employee's name on the report. Okay, so I'm under the employee record, under that contact for that employee. Okay, I'm going to go to the next step here. You can skip steps as well if you want to navigate through the wizard a little quicker. So I could have skipped right here to select column sequence. And now I can see, I can move these around and order them. So I'm going to do the date of the timesheet, my employee's name. So easily I can just go like this and say employee name instead of contact name. Description of my timesheet entry, maybe what kind of work they did that day, if they put notes in their timesheets, my hours, my hourly rate, and the total extended labor. So you could call this extended labor, you could change, we could call this hours, labor rate, something like that. Okay, I want to total up the extended price or the total extended labor. I want to sort it in timesheet entry date order. I want just some labor. So I just used, in this sample company, they use cost types of regular or burden. You might just use labor. So you could just put labor here. You can do multiple cost types and such if you do use labor burden, maybe overtime for some reason you use that. Want to group it, and I want to group it by cost code ID. I want to show the details right there, and I'm just going to keep going here. I could include some additional prompts like the project ID, not required prompts necessarily, just ones that you can use. And now I'm at the end. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I made a couple changes to those columns, and we're going to run this report. Click run here. I'm going to do 8/31. So that's the invoice date to the customer. And I'm going to come back down here and I'm going to pick that project. And I'm going to click view. Okay, so now I have a report by cost code with my cost code description, my date of the timesheet, who it was. These are wage allocations, which I'm not going to explain in this live stream, but you could have like the person's notes for the day. So worked on floor 1, punch list items, whatever can go right there. On those timesheet entries, they could flow through to here. Okay, so that's generally what this description column usually shows. Then you have your hours that they put on their timesheet, what you set for the rate for the specific project, and then this extended labor would be your hours times your rate. Okay, so if you scroll down, you've got subtotals here. We've got a sum here at the bottom of all the labor. Okay, so if you look over here, it substantiates all of this invoice right here. Okay. Okay, so you can print these reports out. You can email them to yourself. You can memorize them and do some different things with scheduling. You can process and store them too in the system. In the custom reports area, there is a viewed stored reports section that you can see your various reports that you want to store a hard copy of. Okay, so you can do various different things and interact with storage as well. Okay, so just a brief, quick couple of substantiated billing reports that you could build for labor and for your AP bills or your purchasing bills to help internally or to give out externally. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll see you on the next live stream. Thanks.